Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I think we're still waiting for a few people to join. And then we'll get started. Okay, I think everybody's in now. So, a warm welcome to you. We have reached day 3 of the Big Love Summit. My name's Victoria Coleman. I'm the Executive Director of the Foundation for Developing Compassion and Wisdom. So today's session is going to last for 60 minutes. First, I'm going to say a few words about FDCW, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker today. We'll dive in, and at the end, we'll have times for questions and answers. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please just feel free to put them in chat, because I think Roz is very kindly going to look at the chat for us and see if any questions are coming up. Okay, so His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said that the key to a happier and more successful world is the growth of compassion. We don't need to become religious, nor do we need to believe in an ideology. All that's necessary is for each of us to develop our good human qualities. So taking that inspiration, FDCW is a non-profit that's dedicated to a kinder, wiser, and more compassionate world. We offer educational resources for adults and children so we can have a happier, more meaningful life. The resources we offer are practical ways to examine our core values, to understand our minds more deeply, and also to develop a sense of caring and concern for the well-being of others. We aim to break through self-limiting beliefs, abandon destructive patterns in our relationships with others, build better, more harmonious relationships, and to cultivate resilience. So if you'd like to learn more about the work and the impact of FDCW and its programs and resources, please subscribe to our monthly newsletter. You can visit our website. So this year we launched a new resource called Conversations That Matter. This resource is designed to get people talking about their values and what's important to them. We felt that people coming out of the pandemic were thinking about where they should be, but it wasn't actually resonating with where they were. And I think the first step was to name that and get people speaking about what was important to them and where they're at. So we've developed this simple resource, which you can download from our website. And we've had some really positive feedback already for groups who are using it in Australia and also in the USA. So if that's of interest to you, please do have a look. So today's session is on the topic of heart practices for difficult times. And I'm really delighted to welcome our speaker today, Paul Wielgus. So some of you know me, Paul, but for those of you who don't, Paul combines his Buddhist and secular mindfulness and compassion teaching with eco-dharma practices, like Joanna Macy's program called The Work That Reconnects. He's a Buddhist practitioner and teacher of nearly 30 years. He has a master's in action inquiry from Bath University. He's a mindfulness-based stress reduction teacher, and he is trained in The Work That Reconnects, which is 9 months of active hope training with Chris Johnson, who's the co-author of Active Hope with Joanna Macy. He studied secular Dharma for 2 years at Bodhi College, and he's also a 16 Guidelines facilitator. 16 Guidelines is a program that's been developed by FDCW. I first met Paul at a 2-day workshop on balanced empathy led by Roz, who's also on our call today. And that was in London back in 2018. Paul's presented at our past 2 FDCW online conferences, and I'm really happy that he's agreed to join us for this 3rd time. In fact, he was the first person that we booked in. So that tells you how much we appreciate and enjoy his sessions for us. His presentations are lively, inspirational, practical, spontaneous, and very popular. So I'm really looking forward to what Paul is going to share with us today. I'm just going to hand over to him now. Thank you, Paul.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along today. I'm really scared now after what you've just said, because I've kind of changed things this year. We were having a very amusing conversation before people came in. So last year, I did a thing called The Joy of Extinction. I think 1 or 2 of you may have been there. And we we created an on-live samba band experience online. And it's all anybody ever remembers. So Angela said, "Are we going to do samba again this year?" And I regaled a story of when I used to work in organizations and I used to run workshops. And I ran a lot of workshops in Central and Eastern Europe. And sometimes they went well, and sometimes they didn't go so well. But I always had a trick at the end that before I gave out the evaluation forms, I would get the whole group to do an okie dokie with me. And everybody got really excited. And then I'd give them the evaluation form, and I'd inevitably get lots of 5 stars for something. And I'll be honest, a bit concerned about last year because there were things that I'd wanted to kind of share with people, and I was worried that maybe they got lost in the fun and games of samba. So I decided to go really low tech this year, and let the essence of what I'm saying hopefully permeate. But I'm not too sure how it's going to go down. So anyway, we'll see how we go. But one thing I decided to do is I'm going to ask you to remember 3 really important things that I'm trying to communicate, and I'll come on to these in a few minutes' time. And that's kind of the message. It's the thing we used to do in organization facilitation. What are the 3 things that you will take away from today? So I'll be introducing them in due course, and we'll see how we go. And if people keep blipping out, I probably realize that will be a vote on how this is all going. Before I start, I want to mention a couple of the presentations that have gone before. Paula Chichester's on Monday, where she did some heart practices. I wonder if you could just put your hand up to the screen if you were at Paula's session. Yeah, so and then there was Tenzin Chokyi's presentation as well, which was the afternoon, I think, or the evening session, and she did something on reclaiming joy. And if I'm really honest, I'm meant to be doing joy and gratitude today, but I kind of feel it's been done. And although I will be covering those topics, I want to extend into another area which I think is absolutely essential in terms of a heart practice in difficult times. So I hope people don't mind and they don't feel that they've been sold a pup. Translate that into Portuguese. Yeah, they haven't been misled as to what I'm going to do. Another thing, and when I sat in Paula's presentation on Monday, what she's done in the past is she's requested or invited people to kind of open up their cameras so that we can make a connection. And then if later you feel you don't want to be visible. So it's a request, there's no obligation, but it will help us make a connection, a community in the room. So if that's all right with folks, that would be very helpful for me. Okay, thank you for that. So if you click on gallery view, you can actually see everyone else or most of the people that are in the room together with us. And you can give them a smile if you like to make a connection across the distances. And the thing is, we're connected with each other in this way, but we're also connected with every being in the universe due to our interdependence, or what Thich Nat Hanh calls interbeing. And it reminds us that we can actually be a community even though we're not in the same space. And as a community, we can also cultivate the natural feeling of love that we have for each other. So I invite you just for a moment, and even if you're not visible, obviously you can do this in your imagination, just to bring to somebody to mind that you really deeply love, like a friend, a child, a grandparent, or even a pet. I've got my cat in here at the moment, or a teacher. And bring that feeling of love into your heart. Just let it nestle deeply inside your heart and hold it there as you breathe. So breathing in, you can feel that love and you can bring it into your heart. And also you can bring that feeling of love for yourself. Paula said how important it is to love ourselves in order to be able to embrace these practices in difficult times. So breathing in, we can feel all the love here, and together now we can breathe out our love to all beings in the universe, radiating out as far as we can, sharing our loving kindness and healing their suffering. So breathing in love, breathing out loving kindness. So let's just spend a few moments doing this. Okay, thank you for that. So I just wanted to share what a good friend of mine many years ago, call him Andy Kemp, said to me. I was a novice, more of a novice Buddhist, and he was quite expert. And I said to him, Andy, in one word, tell me what you think is the most important aspect of Buddhism. And his heart didn't skip a beat, and he didn't take a breath. He just went, intention. And that stuck with me for a long, long time. And just moving on to Paul, and I'll come back to what Andy said. A few weeks ago, after a meeting with Angela and Victoria, Victoria sent me a podcast of Paula Chichester, and it incorporated a number of healing practices, which I found absolutely fantastic. It was on the Jamyang Science and Wisdom Live podcast, and I really recommend you having a look at it. And what I did, I listened to it several times, and I created for myself a kind of Paula Chichester's top 10 healing practices. Yeah, and I said it was low tech today, so that's kind of the level of the artwork. Okay, and I'd just like to share a couple of them. She did this body breathing practice, and she talked about it in terms of lively up yourself. And you might know that Bob Marley song. And she actually sang a verse, which I thought was wonderful as she was guiding this practice. And then the other one, which is in keeping with my theme of joy today, she said, it's really important to find things that bring us joy. And she gave an example. She said, if you love music, which she obviously does, there is nothing wrong in locking yourself in a room with music on and dancing about. And I went, oh my goodness, I do that, but I've been so guilty about it. And now, Venerable Ninja is saying that, we can do that, and it's a heart practice. And I can imagine it there with Bob Marley in the room and really expressing joy. My preference is Joni Mitchell. It might be something like Big Yellow Taxi, but I found that really encouraging. But the one thing she did say on that podcast, and she said it early on, she said, and the most important practice is intention and the power of intention, which echoed what my friend Andy had said all those years ago. So what I'd like to invite you to do to begin with today is an intention setting practice. It's very well known. You may be very familiar with it, but it's called the Children's Fire. And that involves us at the beginning of our session lighting a candle, which I'm going to do now. Okay. And at the end, when we dedicate the energy that we've created today, we can blow that candle out. And what the Children's Fire is, it's a pledge or a plea or a prayer for future generations. And it comes from the elders of ancient America. And they understood that human institutions needed to reflect the balance and wisdom they observed in nature. And this has been incorporated into organizations now as a practice. And they make a pledge, as we are doing now, to the welfare of unborn children, both human and non-human. It's sometimes called 7-generation thinking, or 7-generation intentions. So just close your eyes now and really invite you to set an intention that Whatever we create today, whatever seeds we may sow, will flourish in some way positively for humans and non-humans, say 100 or 200 years in the future. And whilst we're in this space, I'd like to just guide you in a very short grounding exercise, and then I'm going to pop a question into the space that we create. So just taking 3 deep breaths and exhaling slowly and prolonging the exhalation. And with that exhalation, just let the sense of groundedness drop into your body, moving down with gravity to the soles of your feet so that you're connected with Mother Earth. So 3 deep breaths. And then just settling for a few moments back on the natural in-breath and out-breath, allowing tension to drop away in your body. Grounded and present. And so I'm going to ask you a question now, and then reflect on it for a few moments. And then when I ring your bell, ring the bell. If you could pop your answer into the chat box, and Ros will do a summary of what's coming through. So the question is, think of one thing that you are grateful for being alive today. Just one thing you're grateful for being alive today. So just gently come out of the meditation and then pop your answer in the chat box, please. And then just invite Ros if you want to start picking up any themes or particular things in there.
Yeah, there's things around nature, trees and the sun, and then around people, family and children, again around nature, just a general sense of being alive or being connected to other people, this interdependence, which could be connected to many things. And then some very practical things of, you know, somewhere warm and dry to live. Somebody else, my children, that's lovely. A couple were just going back about being able to grow some food. So, teachers, that's interesting. Yeah, so again, around people or people that have influenced us, people we love. Meeting the Dharma, that's the first around Dharma. And interdependence, yeah, so linked together there. Anyone have anything different at all?
Okay, are we there?
Yeah, so
Okay.
a lot around connection, a lot around the people that mean something to us, our situation to live, and then interdependence and Dharma. They're the main things, I think, most of it, and nature.
Thank you, Ros. I mean, it's just so beautiful. It's a practice of gratitude, so powerful. Again, Paula mentioned this on Monday. I'm going to talk a lot about Joanna Macy today. She's my main inspiration, particularly in terms of the activism that I get involved with. And I'm going to be referring to this book. This is the first edition of a book. I'll say more about this in a second. World as Lover, World as Self. And in the book, she speaks about gratitude. So I'd just like to share a couple of quotes from her. The great secret of gratitude is that it is not dependent on external circumstance. It's like a channel that we switch to at any moment, no matter what is going on around us. And then she quotes someone called Brother David Katz. And I love this because it actually does all my job for today in 3 sentences. It says, the root of joy is gratefulness. it's not the joy that makes us grateful, it's the gratitude that makes us joyful. And so this kind of integration of those two qualities, I think, is incredibly powerful. So I'm not sure this is going to work now because we don't have everyone on camera. So I wonder if, yeah, I'm going to do the ones that can see me. It needs people on gallery view, but I'm going to introduce a voting system for some of the things that I do. So we've done it already. That's something, you know, that the people who came to my course last year, they vote, put their hand there, and I can see you on gallery view. And then we're going to have an idea evaluation. So thumbs up for something you like about something that you're not too, yeah, I could take it or leave it. Thumb down, you don't like it. And then there'll be chat box kind of responses. And what I've done is I've divided my presentation up into 5 themes. Okay. Ros provided me these. I love stationery. It's one of my addictions. And so she gave me these wonderful cards. Okay. So theme 1 is what I've called the 3 T's. This is the thing I want you to remember after today. Nothing else, just the 3 T's. And the 3 T's are trees, together, and time. And when I talk about time, I mean deep time, which I'm going to say more about. Where this came from, and I really am a slow learner, I realize this, because I think this has been around a long time already. But just before I went on retreat recently, and just before I went on retreat, I was doing some investigation into the idea of deep time, which is one of Joanna Macy's concepts about how to manage in this world of difficulty, of to extend the time period back to our ancestors and right over through to the future generations. And I was kind of thinking, well, how would that manifest? What could we actually do that would really, you know, play to that? And I thought, well, it's a no-brainer. We plant trees, the first T, and then we plant trees together, so we create community, and we do it with a deep time intention. And anyway, I just before I went, I gate crashed Anna Kaloa's Global Tree Initiative webinar, and I sat in there and thought, oh my goodness, why have I not heard this before? This is fantastic. So I went away on retreat, and on the first night of my retreat, I had a big dream. And I dreamt that I was a big gathering of lovely people who were having a really good time, and they were having meaningful conversations. And in fact, I realized when I woke up, it was the Universal Education Gathering of 2011. But in the dream, I dreamt I walked up to this 2-story building, and it had an open front. And in the top story, there was Osel Hita, and he was rehearsing with a group of people. And the rehearsal was all about the joy of walking in meadows. So when I woke up, I thought, I don't need to really think this through any further. This is what I want to do. And I actually wrote a letter to Anna saying, Global Tree Initiative, count me in. Yeah. And anyway, I unfortunately, I rang her on the last day of my retreat and said, did you get my letter? Did you get my letter? She said, no. So I was able to share with her what had happened in the dream. So I actually thought it'd be really nice if I could invite Anna into the space here just for a couple of minutes, just to talk a little bit about the Global Tree Initiative. So over to you, sweetheart. You're muted, I think.
Thank you, Paul. Well, I mean, the GTI really, just like FDCW, is really about engaging people on the heart level, creating communities based on value around the activity of planting trees. So, yeah, I think we've got over 1.5 mil trees. We're representing planters from around 59 countries now. We've got lots of exciting stuff coming up with the development of our sort of 5-year strategy, which is really exciting. We're currently, I was talking to Paul about this, running a global tree challenge in partnership with QS World Merit, which is a university ranking organization. And through an app, you can plant trees and gain rewards. I'll drop the link in, but it's a great way for people all over the world to plant trees, and you can gain scholarships, grants, take part in training. So yeah, I mean, I think that's probably enough for me, really, because I don't want to take your time, Paul, but thank you so much for your inviting me to say something.
Thank you, Anna. So I'm so pleased that you were able to make it. I love you so much. You're such a special person, and I know today things fall apart in this this presentation. I could just invite you back in, so I got a good backstop. On the retreat, well, a couple of things that I did is I do this painting that is, I was trained to do. It's for people who can't paint, and I might, so it looks like a child's painting, but it's very liberating. But I also attempt to write poetry, so I thought I'd share you a poem that I wrote whilst I was away. It's called If I Plant a Tree. If I plant a tree, I help me. I help the trees. If we plant trees, we become community. If we become community, we help ourselves and we help trees. And as more and more communities plant trees, together we breathe in the breath of trees. We work. We breathe out and the trees breathe in, and forests flourish and grow. As forests come into being, we become the forest. We are into being. We breathe together. We are into breathing. We are the trees planting ourselves. And then, and only then and together, we can respond to the question, what do we most need to do to save the world? And if we stop, we pause and deeply listen, we will hear the answer rustling in our leaves. Together we will hear the sound of Mother Earth crying. We hear deep, deep in our hearts the sound of our Mother Earth crying. And then, and only then, will we truly care enough to act in community to help to heal her. But first of all, I need to plant a tree. Oh, we get quite emotional. Okay. Theme 2. Joanna Macy. Joanna Macy taught me how to feel. I want to say a little bit about her, or quite a lot about her, actually. She was the thread through these 3 Big Love presentations going back to 2020 and 2021, and now here in 2022. And if you don't know her, she's a Buddhist, she's a deep ecologist, and she's a systems thinker, but she's also one of the most beautiful and powerful women in the world. She's now 91 and she still has the spirit of a 30-year-old. She's incredible. And in 2020, when I was invited on the Big Love session, I did something called mindfulness and joy in the heart of the storm, I think, something like wisdom and compassion in the eye of the storm. And I've spoken to Victoria about the 3 narratives that Joanna Macy talks about, the narratives that are in the world at the moment. The first one is business as usual. The second one is the great unraveling, which we are deeply steeped in at the moment. And the third one was the great turning to a life-sustaining society, which is what many, many people now are endeavoring to create. And when Victoria introduced me, she said this had really kind of got her thinking, and she was kind of flipping between these 3 and quite a state of turbulence. And I thought it might be useful just to invite Victoria and to say, well, where are you, Victoria? You're here today in terms of these 3 narratives.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I think when Paul first shared the work of Joanna Macy and the way she described these 3 narratives, and then she described that you can actually be oscillating between the 3, so that there's the business as usual, and then there's the whole overwhelm, the whole climate catastrophe, annihilation of the human race that we're facing. And then there's the possibility of transformation. And of course, the third bit, the great turning, is where is the challenge, really. And it's like, some days you're feeling, I'm feeling, positive. Yeah, I can contribute to that. We can work with this. We can develop our core values. We can try to become more embodied, more compassionate, and work in that third space. And there are other times, maybe I've watched the television or the news, or I'm on social media, and I kind of think, I can't do this anymore. It's just it's too frightening. It's just too frightening. And then I speak with other people who are maybe not mindful about climate, or not thinking about it, or they're thinking about other things like the economy or something else. And so you kind of forget it, and it goes into the back of your mind. But more and more, I feel it's coming to the fore. And I look around my environment and I see cups people have left, or rubbish on the ground. And I think, why would you do that? Why would you just litter this world? And I think about my son, who's 6, and his future, and whether he has a future on this planet, and the responsibility we have something to do about it. And then I listen to Joanna, and I think she's so clear and so courageous in speaking her truth. And she also spoke about the Shambhala prophecy, which I hope you're going to mention, Paul.
I am.
When I watched that video, I was like, whoa, wake up, Paul.
Yeah.
You can't just give up on this. It's a really exciting time to be alive, and this possibility that you can help to make a difference. But also, just the other day, my husband said, I was just playing tennis with my friend, and he doesn't believe in climate change. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, he's read all these books. It doesn't exist. And I said, but he can step out. So surely he can see that the planet is warming up. It's daily. It's in the news, the fires everywhere, the flooding. He's like, no. That's, 10,000 years ago, the planet was 8 degrees warmer. So this is no big deal. I think, my gosh, there are a section of people that climate deniers who are thinking they're in another reality of alternative facts. And we talked about this, Paul, how do we communicate with people who are coming, from that perspective of, no, there's nothing going on. How do we find the bridge there? Yeah. I'd be interested to hear what you say about that.
Yeah. I'll respond to that, actually, because Ros and I had the same situation in our parish council. We went into the parish council trying to persuade them to declare a climate emergency on Monday, and we came against 3 abject climate deniers. And it really brings home to you what a echo chamber we live in. When you see it so visibly in front of you. My approach at the moment, I got us trained in a grassroots democracy process called Trust the People, and it's a very, you have these things like People's Assembly. And the how-to there is you've really got to include them, even after what they say, in what's called radical inclusivity. Because no one, I remember Ken Wilber saying this, no one anywhere is 100% wrong all the time. So you've got to find those bits of connection with people and work on that, so that you're in dialogue. And then, eventually, hopefully, those can be seeds of awakening for them. But if we other people, irrespective of their views, there is no movement possible. And I think it's all part of a gradual awakening that is possible. I think I'll come to the Shambhala prophecy, actually, because just to kind of share with any of you who've not heard of it, it was a 1,200-year-old Tibetan prophecy, and it was given to Joanna when she was in Tibet by a renowned teacher. And the version he gave her was that in the years to come, this prophecy said, Earth is in danger when there will be barbarian forces who have arisen, an unfathomed destructive power. And it just described the great unraveling of what's happening here. But she said at the same time, or the prophecy said at the same time, that normal, ordinary people, regular people, will rise up, the Shambhala warriors, and they will create change using the tools of wisdom and compassion. So there are so many movements now bubbling up of people in different configurations. They're in Buddhist, they're in non-Buddhist, that are working together, and it's invisible, but there are millions upon millions of people working at the moment. And actually, that's where the change will come from, because the politicians cannot do it. They don't have the answers. We'll get we'll get the outcome of COP this week, and it's not gonna change anything. So it's down to us, as I think Angela said earlier on when we're having a conversation. It's down to us, the power of the people, and we've got to somehow make connections and embrace those that are different from us. This is the whole idea of interbeing, for humans and non-humans, that we're all the same. Ubuntu, the spirit of Ubuntu. So how can we kind of liberate that from the delusions that we're overwhelmed with? And in fact, from that, because my own journey was inspired last year. I was kind of a bit burnt out, but I'd come across belatedly the mind training of the Shambhala warriors. And I've been practicing this ever since. And last year, there are 24 mind trainings on the Shambhala warrior mind training list. And last year, what really helped me was, as a bird flies on two wings, balance outer activity with inner sustenance. So I was getting out of balance. I was neglecting my inner work. And then the other one, which is the theme again of my presentation, when forces of power seek to isolate us from each other, reach out with joy. In it and through it all, holding to your intention, let go into the music of life and dance. And I heard this both from Tenzin Chokyi and from Paula. We've got to find those places of joy and be able to go there in order to nourish us and resource us in battling these sometimes overwhelming odds. Since last year, and my retreat was part of this healing process and kind of getting my rebalance, I've been inspired by other of the mind training. So here are they. Simplify, clear away the deadwood in your life, look for the heartwood and give it the first call on your time, the best of your energy. And in conjunction with that, follow your heart, realize your gifts, cultivate them with diligence to offer knowledge and skill to the world. Find out what you are here for and what makes you come alive, and then put all your energy into that. And then a couple of others: staying open, staying grounded. Remember that you are the inheritor of the strengths of thousands of generations of life, the ancestors that we are here representing, and all the things that they've brought into the qualities in our personalities. Staying open, staying grounded. Recall that the thankful prayers of future generations are silently with you. They are there. This is the children's children that we've talked about. And the outcome of that, staying open, staying grounded, be confident in the magic and power that arise when people come together in a great cause, this gathering together in community. And then the belief, staying open, staying grounded, know that the deep forces of nature will emerge to the aid of those who defend the earth. So, it's this, just commitment to engagement together, trees together, deep time for me. So, third theme is COP26, not 27. And I spoke about this at the end of my session last year, and I'd kind of forgotten about it myself, but there's some really important lessons there. And there were two monks from the Plum village tradition at the center of the Blue Room, right in the heart of the COP, where there's tens of thousands of people milling around trying to solve the problems of the world, which they couldn't do. And they created this space for people to come into. And they described how people came in there all wired and sat down and kind of just felt the environment. And some of them cried, just rediscovering their humanity. And for me, what that is about, and this is such an important heart practice, is the power of the gap, the power of pausing. And if my friend Andy Kemp was here now and I was the one with a bit more knowledge, and he asked me the one thing in Buddhism or in secular that would most help, is most important, I would say is the gap. And it's the gap between stimulus and response that Viktor Frankl talks about in Man's Search for Meaning. Within that gap, where we can actually choose our appropriate response to the situations that we find ourselves in, choose our attitude. And for me, the important thing is we can cultivate that gap. And how do we cultivate it? We practice mindfulness and compassion. And so I really believe that somehow we've got to create the paradigm shift, however long it takes, or sow the seeds for the paradigm shift, which will include bringing mindfulness and compassion training into every aspect of society, into prisons, into government, into business, into schools, etc., etc. We have to have that as our intention, because that is what will give us what Joanna Macy says we need, is a systemic change, and also raise the consciousness collectively, what we need to get through this. And I found a quote from Thich Nat Hanh about this as well. And he said, how can we create this shift so that we collectively transform human evolution with a deep intention that heralds the transformation of Homo economis to the age of Homo conscious? Yes, we've got Homo sapiens and we've got Homo economis. Homo conscious, a species that embodies mindfulness, compassion, and awakening. By training our minds now, we bestow these gifts on our future dependents. Yeah, and we don't need to work on this and expect results. This is a long time project, but for me, we need to be sowing these seeds, yeah, for the future generations. So whatever consciousness emerges after the collapse, we have been instrumental in helping that be as positive as it possibly can. So I want to think, well, how does this fit with planting trees? Well, I found a lovely quote from a character called John Stuart Collis. Some Irish people might know him. He's an Irish pioneer of the ecology movement. And he said, in the company of flowers, we know happiness. In the company of trees, we are able to think. They foster meditation. And then that brings me to the GTI, the Global Tree Initiative vision. How I missed this, I don't know, but then I found it. So the vision of the Global Tree Initiative is, together we can create a conscious, wise, warm-hearted world of peace, where people respect and live in harmony with animals and the environment. And their mission statement is the best. It's like something Boris Johnson would have done, but in a very elegant way. Plant your tree, grow our forest, save their future. Yeah, it's just wonderful. So at the end of the podcast, Brother Spirit guided a meditation on an appropriate response of joy as an appropriate response. I'd like to invite you now into a practice for a few moments. So just allowing again the settling into the body with the out breath, allowing the sense of groundedness going all the way down to your feet, so you can feel the connection of your feet with Mother Earth beneath you. So this is an invitation to find joy in this moment. Connecting with the earth and knowing that Mother Earth is there for us. Feeling it through the soles of your feet. You make contact with the earth element, the chair, the cushion, and the floor. Make contact with the air on your skin, and air coming into the body, our breath. So we feel the love of the loving green world, aware of our natural out-breath, aware of our natural in-breath. Oxygen coming in, refreshing every cell in our body. What is that if not joy? It's joy of being alive. And then we breathe, we can relax, breathing out, relaxing, releasing, and resting. And with the out breath, we can give back our offering to the trees. The carbon they thrive on is our out breath. This continuous cycle of exchange in which we participate. we are interbreathing. We breathe in the out-breath of the trees. We can release, we can relax, and give back our offering to the trees. We breathe in life. We breathe out gratitude. Breathing in, we know we are alive. Breathing out, we feel the simple joy of being alive in this moment. So the next few moments, let's just breathe together in this way. Breathing in, we are alive. Breathing out, we feel joy. Okay, theme 4 was a bit dodgy. So I'm going to, I guess with not many people who I could see voting, I'm going to really shortcut this. But theme 4 was Joni Mitchell. Okay, because I have a passionate kind of fondness of Joni Mitchell's art as I do of Joanna Macy's work. And you'll notice that they both share the same initial, JM. And this goes back, I actually originally wanted to call my presentation Big Love, actually. Joanna Macy taught me how to feel. And there's a film called Love Actually, in which there's Emma Thompson, who plays the wife, is asked why she loves get these two mixed up, Joni Mitchell so much. She says, because I'm a stiff, cold English woman and Joni Mitchell taught me how to feel. Yeah, and anybody who loves Joni Mitchell, which there may be nobody here, will know exactly what she meant. So I was going to do a kind of voting thing, and and I'll arrive at the conclusion of why I wanted to call it Joanna Macy taught me how to feel, Big Love Actually. But I'm going to shortcut that, and I'm just going to ask one question of you: is what song, any songs that you are familiar with of Joni Mitchell's, and pop them into the chat box. This should be interesting. Yeah, Wendy. Yeah. Clouds, yes. Big Yellow Taxi for me too. Thank you, Colin. Okay, you've come up with what I wanted you to come up with. Okay, there's a couple of lines in Big Yellow Taxi. There's one about. I mean, does anybody know what they did with Paradise in Big Yellow Taxi? You can shout it out. Both sides now has come up there, I've just noticed.
They paved Paradise and put a parking lot.
Oh, Wendy, I love you so much. Okay, Wendy, what did they do with the trees?
Oh, that's a good question. They presumably cut them all down. Can't remember, you tell me.
They cut all the trees down and they put them in a tree museum.
That's right, yeah, the Eden Project.
Yeah, and they charged all the people $1.50 just to see them.
That's right.
However, she re-recorded this song this is the nerd in me now, in 2007, and she changed the price to they charged all the people an arm and a leg just to see them. Just shows what inflation could do. So I was going to go through this ritual here, getting us to this conversation, and I shared it with a couple of people that said, "You must be mad, Paul. Nobody will have a clue what you're on about it." I was all ready to go with this until last Saturday when I sat in on Ossalita's presentation on Global Tree Initiative. And on that, there was somebody did a presentation about a food forest project of some children in the States. And I went, that's what I want to show at the presentation today. So I'm going to ask Matt now if you can show the video.
We made paradise, took down a parking lot with a pollinator garden, a bee, and a butterfly spot. Don't it always seem to grow? A seed in the ground and away we go. We made paradise, took down a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. We grew a food forest that starts with a tiny seed. All the people and the critters are welcome to come and feed. Here we go. Don't it always seem to grow? A seed in the ground and away we go. We made paradise, took down a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Hey, organ farmer, help our cause pretty please. Protect living soil for the health of the trees. Please, don't it always seem to grow? A seed in the ground and away we go. We made paradise, took down a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Late last night, I heard the screen door slam. A sign it was time to garden with my old man. Don't it always seem to grow? A seed in the ground and away we go. We made paradise, took down a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Don't it always seem to grow? A seed in the ground and away we go. We made paradise, took down a parking lot. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. Ooh, ba, 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 ba. We made paradise, took down a parking lot.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm going to kind of draw things to a close and invite you to sit and do a dedication, and then we can blow out the children's candles. So don't forget 3 T's, trees together in deep time, and also the importance of mindfulness and compassion in all of this as well, the training of mindfulness and compassion. So if you just like to just settle, it's a short dedication. I'd like to start with a quote from Hyacinth Loyson, who was a theologian in 1866. Blessed is he whose trees which he plants and under whose shade he shall never sit. He loves them for themselves and for the sake of his children and his children's children, who are to sit beneath the shadow of their spreading boughs. And if we could just think of the energy, the causes that we're creating in this space, and dedicate them to the the future beings, human and non-human. And also reflect that may we care for each other and for our beloved planet Earth. May we find what truly makes us come alive, dedicate our time and energy and attention to that. May we stay open to possibility and awaken our full potential. May we find caring ways to sow seeds for the long term, seeds that will ripen positively for the children of future generations. So if I can invite you all to kind of move towards your screen, and after 3, blow out the candle together. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you everyone. And I think we have a few minutes for any questions or reflections. So if you could either put a question in the chat box or can open up your mic.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you, Paul, on behalf of everyone here and also FDCW's community for such a wonderful, powerful presentation. You're so generous with what you've shared and very moving. So thank you so much for that. And also just want to thank our audience here today, everyone who's participated. Thanks for joining us today and thanks for sharing. Also, I'd just like to mention that FDCW is a non-profit. We do rely on the goodwill and generosity of people like you. So if you enjoyed today and you would like to pay it forward so that we can continue to share these webinars, tools, resources, courses, training for compassion and wisdom with other people, please take a moment after this just to visit our website and make a donation so we can continue to be part of this. And our next event is going to be at 6 p.m. this evening. Drum roll, it's Robina Courtin. So if you're not familiar with Robina, please do consider showing up for that. She will be talking about compassionate activism. So very much what we were exploring today with Paul. Does anybody have any questions for Paul? Has anything come up in the chat? People want to raise their hand, ask anything? There.
I just put it in chat actually, Paul, what your 3 T's helped me to think about was the 4th T, i.e. today.
Yeah.
I've always had this thing, when I do this, then I'll plant some trees, you know, when I get that, I'll do, you know, whatever. And it's today, yes, deep time, but actually on a personal level, you know, I could be dead tomorrow, do it today.
I'll take that one, Wendy. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. That's a lovely contribution. Yeah, you're absolutely right. When I got back from my retreat, I planted a bean tree in my own garden. I visit it every day, and I'm kind of, you know, thinking of the deep time of when people will sit under the canopy of that bean tree in 80, 100 years time, and it's really powerful to do that. But yeah, we got to do it. We've got to do it now.
The other T I thought of was trouble. You know, sometimes we've got to make trouble if we're really going to, I mean, not, you know, be an activist means actively enlivening things, and that can be a bit troublesome.
Yeah, it's nice with that. My youngest son is he's a squatter, he squats, and he lives in a building in a park in London, and I've already got a plan for some gorilla tree planting with him in the park, and everybody welcomes it. You know, the people around the park, just improving the place. So, yeah, what better than do something like that? Anybody else?
Well, just to reflect what you were both saying, I think the process of watching and being with nature in that focused way. I've got like 1 million acorn trees growing, oak trees in my garden. They're all about so big, but you know, I just scooped them up from the woodland, and every day just seeing them, for me it's like complete, I don't know, it's transformed my practice from, you know, trying to get something to just being somewhere. And it's, you know, all the lessons that those seeds have taught me after all these years of studying other stuff. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's tiny miracles every day. Yeah, thanks for a great session, Paul. That was outstanding and so authentic and blessed. So thank you. Lovely to see everyone.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for being so supportive. And I'm feeling great, and it's been lovely to have the opportunity to share, what's going on for me, and I'm so excited about working with Anna on this as well. It's been transformational for me, actually. Having been an activist for 3.5 years and then changing this direction feels really, really positive, and there's a lot of can do within it. So I'm loving that. Okay, thank you.
You get 5 stars, Paul. Yay.
I would have still liked to call it Big Love, actually, but thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
We can do the hokey cokey now.
Oh, no hokey cokey.
Left hand, left hand, right.
We can do
Thank you.
Sam.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.